let's be clear. America is a continent. It's a big one, stretching from the Arctic Circle all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. It's a place of incredible diversity, with stunning landscapes, vibrant cultures, and a long, complicated history. But here's the thing. America is also used to refer to a single country, the United States of America. This causes a bit of a problem, wouldn't you say? Imagine if we called all Europeans Germans or all Asians Chinese. It just wouldn't make sense. The truth is, there are millions upon millions of people living in North America, Central America, and South America who are not citizens of the United States. They are Canadians, Mexicans, Brazilians, Argentinians, and so many more. They are all Americans, just not in the way that the US often claims the word. So how did this whole American identity crisis come about? Well, to understand that, we need to go back in time a bit. The story starts with European explorers, those intrepid adventurers who sailed across the ocean blue and stumbled upon a whole new world. One of those explorers was Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian fellow who figured out that what Columbus had bumped into wasn't Asia, but a whole new continent. Now, cartographers back then, the guys who drew maps, loved naming things after people, so they decided to honor Mr. Vespucci by calling this new landmass America. It was a catchy name, we'll give them that. Fast forward a couple of centuries and European powers are busy setting up shop in the Americas, carving out colonies left and right. Among those colonies were the 13 that would eventually become the United States. And guess what they started calling themselves? You guessed it, Americans. The year is 1776. The Declaration of Independence is signed, fireworks are exploding, and a new nation is born, the United States of America. It's a momentous occasion full of hope and idealism, but it's also a time of great confusion. See, these newly minted Americans were still figuring out who they were and what they stood for. They had fought a war for independence, but independence from what? From British rule, sure, but also from the old ways of doing things. They wanted a name that reflected their newfound freedom, their aspirations, their belief in self-government. And so they clung to the name American with even greater fervor. It became a badge of honor, a symbol of their break from the past. As the US expanded westward, pushing its borders from the Atlantic to the Pacific, the idea of American identity became even more intertwined with the nation's growth. Manifest destiny, they called it, the belief that it was their God-given right to conquer and control the entire continent. This expansionist mindset had a profound impact on how Americans saw themselves and their place in the world. They were pioneers, they were trailblazers, they were the embodiment of progress and civilization, and they were the only true Americans, or so they believed. Section 5, north of the border, south of the border, different perspectives on American. Now, you might think that our friends in Canada and Latin America would be a bit miffed about this whole American monopoly. And you wouldn't be wrong. Canadians, with their politeness and penchant for saying sorry, often find themselves having to clarify that they are not, in fact, from the United States. I'm Canadian, they'll say, as if apologizing for their country's very existence. Meanwhile, in Latin America, the term American is often seen as exclusionary and even a tad disrespectful. They've got their own rich histories, cultures, and identities, thank you very much. They're not just an afterthought in the grand narrative of America. Section 6, the cultural conundrum, American culture in a globalized world. The United States has had an undeniable impact on global culture, from Hollywood movies to fast food chains to blue jeans. But is there such a thing as a singular American culture? The US is a melting pot of different ethnicities, religions, and traditions. It's a place where people from all over the world come to build new lives and contribute to the ever-evolving tapestry of American society. So when we talk about American culture, are we talking about jazz music and abstract expressionism? Are we talking about hamburgers and apple pie? Or are we talking about the constant interplay and fusion of different influences that make the United States such a unique and dynamic place? Section 7, the political punch American as a loaded term. In the realm of politics, the word American takes on even greater weight. It's used to rally support, to define national identity, and to distinguish between us and them. Politicians often invoke the term to evoke patriotism, to appeal to shared values and to promote a sense of unity, but it can also be used to exclude, to divide, and to justify questionable policies. Think about it. What does it really mean to be American? Who gets to decide, and what happens to those who don't fit the mold? Section 8. The power of a name American in the 21st century. The debate over the term American is not just about semantics, it's about identity, representation, and the very idea of what it means to belong. In an increasingly interconnected world where borders are becoming more fluid and identities more complex, it's important to be mindful of the language we use and the assumptions we make. Perhaps it's time to move beyond the idea of a singular American identity and embrace the rich diversity and multiplicity of experiences that make up the Americas. Section 9. So, why only US citizens called Americans? Well, the short answer is they're not. American can refer to anyone or anything from the American continents. The problem is that the United States has had a long history of using the term American as shorthand for US citizen, and that's created a lot of confusion and resentment. It's a bit like calling your pet dog dog. Sure, it's technically accurate, but it's also a bit lazy and unimaginative, don't you think? So, the next time you're tempted to use the word American, take a moment to consider its full meaning and the many different people and cultures it encompasses. After all, there's a whole continent out there, and it's time we started acknowledging